You have questions, we have answers. This is Jane Muller.
And this is Ken Muller. Welcome to our show, all about real estate with Ken and Jane. And today, Jane, we have a very special guest to talk about home staging. Home staging can be a very important part of the home selling process. And to break it all down for us, we have Holly Cerami of Do Not Throw It Away. Holly, welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you for having me as a guest today.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. We want to learn we'd love for you. We've known Holly for many years. She's been so helpful to us in
for our clients.
For our clients, and providing consulting and staging advice and helping the homes look super good so they sell quicker and for top dollar. So Holly, to start with, you're basically a staging consultant. Can you tell us what staging entails, what staging is all about?
Yes, Ken. Thank you. So the companies Do Not Throw It Away. I am a portion of that company. I studied interior design, so I try to help the homeowner show their home in the best light possible. Staging for us does not mean bringing in an entire house to an empty household. It means going into a house where you live or where you are cleaning out an estate and arranging what is in that house to make the house look the best it possibly can. That could mean decluttering. That could mean rearranging what you have. But people don't realize how important it is when a buyer comes in and looks at a house to be able to understand the purpose of every room. Because if you have a room and you don't know what the purpose of that room is, or it's not clear, when the buyer comes in, they're thinking, well, I don't know what I'm going to do in this room, and why would I buy a house when I have a room I can't use? Also, it's very important for the house to look as large as you can possibly show it, because buyers want space, and they cannot visualize what it looks like without your things in it and how it would look bigger if their things are smaller.
Totally agree. Absolutely. I think with staging, right, there's a different type of staging. Some company do a full-blown staging. For example, they come in with the crew to repaint the house, to redecorate the house. Some of them come in with the furniture.
Yes.
Some come in with the painting, the area rug, the vase, everything. But it's different. Most of my clients, they already live in the house for a long, long time. They really... It looks strange, right? If they have someone come in with brand new furniture and everything, the cost is one concern. And the second concern is really it's no longer their home. Well, they're still living there. So a lot of our client, at least, they are pretty prefer to have a company like your Don't Throw Away come and help. They declutter and rearrange with their own furniture to show the best of their home.
Right. And do you guys find, Jane, since you deal primarily with a lot of the clients up front, and Holly, you may before they list the house also get involved.
Yes.
But do you find like a lot of a certain number of sellers give you resistance and say, well, what's the difference how the house looks? Because at the end of the day, when I turn the key over to them, it's going to be delivered empty. They're not going to have this furniture as part of the house. I mean, that was like kind of my approach before I got into real estate, because I come from an engineering background. I said, well, yeah, I can imagine it, but the more I've gotten into real estate and now really become a real estate professional, I realized that the majority of people, like you hit the nail on the head, they cannot visualize what the house can really, how beautiful the house can look. And to me, that's the value. It's so valuable with staging. We've experienced that time and time again, where homes, even new construction homes that had no furniture, they were beautifully designed, but once we staged them, it dramatically increased the interest. Even the National Association of Realtors has statistics that show on a national level the benefits of staging, likely to bring more offers, higher offers. So there's a lot of value. But I would think that a lot of sellers might not realize that decluttering and the messiness, the perception is reality.
Yes.
So I would like to answer that, Jane, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So we had, I'll tell you, so everybody thinks the market was so hot. Everybody had so many buyers that anything would sell and you don't have to worry. And it's both. It's decluttering, and sometimes it's also the perception of the rooms. I tell people, don't worry. First of all, like you said, it's very expensive to bring someone in, and they want their things. So one thing I tell them, which I think helps them, is if there's something I feel you don't need to have in the house, but you want it, we can put it in the garage. Because nobody ever walks into a house and says, the garage is is too cluttered. I don't want to buy this house. Everybody can imagine what a garage looks like and a car fits in, which is very different than imagining a room. So I think that also helps with your point. If they've been living here and they have their things, I can say, well, maybe this chest of drawers doesn't fit well, but you don't have to get rid of it to stage the house. We can just hold on to it. But we had a house that I worked on with you,
Yes.
where you had, during the height of this hot market, you had 2 open house weekends, and you came back and said the house was being said, the feedback was the house was too small and people weren't giving offers. And it actually turned out it was a friend of mine who, like you say, was resistant to me coming in and staging it. And it wasn't cluttered. It was a very nice house and it was well furnished. But in some of the rooms, there was too much furniture. The furniture wasn't laid out well. It wasn't clear, as I said, about how you would be able to use a room with what she had in it. And so after the second weekend, I went in with Andrew, who works with me, and we spent only about 2-3 hours in the house, which is not a lot of time and not a lot of money. And the next weekend, she had multiple offers because we took out a few pieces. We rearranged a room. She had a bedroom where the bed was too big for the room, and we made it into a nursery. So just by doing these small things in a few hours, it changed from no offers in 2 weekends to multiple offers. So just because the market is hot doesn't mean people will necessarily buy something if they feel the house is unusable to them.
Absolutely. They may not buy, or if they buy, the number is not as good as if you, show the best side of the house.
Right, because I think with buying a house, as it's always said, it's an emotional process. Yes. People have an attachment. It's not just the numbers. I mean, there is the practicality, the location to the schools, the rating of the schools, the township, the neighborhood, but there's an emotional factor. So staging brings out the best in the house, and it shows, I could use this as a nursery. I could use this as the home office. This is a great way to arrange the master bedroom with the master bed and the dresser in a particular way. So it'll help them have a personal attachment to the house.
And a lot of times they come with furniture. So they worry whether or not what they have is going to fit. And if they feel like the furniture you have doesn't fit, even though their furniture may be smaller, they may not be able to visualize it. And now they're saying, my furniture is not going to fit in the house. The furniture doesn't fit here. So by giving the impression that there's more room, they get the impression that they can put what they have in that house. So that's also, an issue for a lot of people.
I totally agree, Holly. In that case, the house, right? Because they worry about their furniture doesn't fit. The feedback is your house is too small. So once you did, rearranging the home around the furniture, actually use every piece they have there, but just rearranging it and put some in the garage. At the end, we can show the house, in fact, is not as small as some buyer feel. A lot of time when you walk in somewhere, it's like a clutter. Automatically, you feel the space is crammed in.
Yes.
You feel it's small. But if you walk somewhere it's open, that's always, Once I had a house, I think Andrew did it as well. First time I went there, the basement, the owner lived there for a long, long time. It's a big basement. When I went down, I literally couldn't walk down the last step. I had to standing on the stairs and look down. I said, we have to do something here. And I knew there was a huge job because the 4 basement was all full, right? And I gave Andrew's name and number. And 2 weeks later, they said, come back. And when I went back, and they said, don't be, you're going to be shocked. When I went to the basement, to be honest, nothing there.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to put things in basement. In fact, a lot of buyers these days, they consider basement is very important living space. They either want to make a home theater, gym, children play place, or home office. So whatever you have, do not stuck in the basement. First of all, if you put everything in the basement, later on you have to get it up again. That's not good for the mover, more cost to you. Secondly, you will make the basement look more small and crummy. So the best thing is to put them in the garage, or if you don't want them, get rid of them. This would not bring another point I love about your company. Most company can't be bothered. They just want to do once, that's it. But
Right.
Your company do multiple
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're one-stop, sorry to interrupt, but basically, Holly, your company, Do Not Throw It Away, is a one-stop shopping because with staging, I mean, a lot of people just think of staging as, adding things, but where in fact, a lot of staging entails decluttering and putting things in the garage, but certain times it might be too much clutter or things that the sellers really don't need. So your company comes in and you will physically remove the furniture and unwanted items and either try to donate whatever you can donate or recycle whatever you can recycle. You don't just throw it away, but you really take it out of the house and use it for a worthwhile charity or beneficial purpose.
So you touched on a very good point. So I mean, both of you together. So what we do is a little different, like you said, than what most people do. It is do not throw it away. So the goal is to be as green as possible. Anything that can be recycled is always recycled. Anything that can be donated is donated. And we price differently than other people because we price based on what we're doing with the items and what value they have. We don't just come in like a junk company and say, you have junk, let's take the junk out. We look at this as your home and we look at this as your possessions. So we know they have meaning to you. So if I'm going into a house that's too cluttered and I feel we need to take out furniture, I don't automatically put it all in the garage, you're right, and that was probably unclear. I'll go in and I'll work with the homeowner and try to understand which pieces they are looking to keep, which pieces that are going to go with them when they move. And if they can be used, they will be used. If they can't be used, they go in the garage. But then the pieces that they are not looking to take with them or they have no interest in keeping would be pieces that we would take out. And yes, we do 2 steps, which is different. We'll come in, we'll do that initial decluttering or rearranging and clean out for you to show the house. Then once the house is sold, we come back in at a second stop and we'll clean out everything that's left that you are not taking with you and leave the house broom clean. And that's really good, not only for a homeowner living there, because homeowners living there oftentimes thinks, well, I can do a lot of this myself. But the people who always need us are people who have an estate and the family's out of town. Because when you're out of town, it's very difficult to do this yourselves. But I will say one thing I find people do is, and we just got a call from somebody, they have an estate and they live locally. And they think, I can do this myself. And what they don't realize is, number one, when they do this themselves, it's not the same. People live with things. And when you live with things, a lot of times you don't see it because it's yours or it's part of your house. You're so used to it, you don't see it the way other people look at it. And so when I come in, it's a fresh set of eyes looking at those things differently. The other thing is people don't think about is the cost of holding a house. The real estate taxes, the heating, everything. There's a big cost to holding on to a house for 3 months, 6 months to clean it out. So you might think you're saving money because you're doing this job yourself, but in the long run, it's very costly. We'll come in 2 or 3 days what could take you 2 or 3 months to do. So the cost to us is nowhere near what it's costing you to hold on to that house all that time.
Not only that, right? And a lot of time, right, especially our client is aging, right? You're no longer 20 and 30. When I was 20 and 30, I could work very hard, not sleeping for much for a week, and then took me 2-3 hours sleep to go by. As soon as the final exam finished, and then I will crash for 2 days, 3 days to recover. So, in that case, you look at things, it's not much, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
You think I can finish time after time. My clients say, Jane, my house will be ready.
Yes.
At the end, you realized work is a lot of more than the time.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. All good stuff. And we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back to talk more with Holly right after this. Okay, welcome back to All About Real Estate with Ken and Jane. Today we're joined with a very special guest, Holly Cerami of Do Not Throw It Away. And Holly, most importantly, before we forget, this information is so enlightening and so useful. How can the listeners get in touch with your company if they'd like to schedule a consultation, if they're thinking about staging?
So the best way is to call us at either 732-586-7525 or 732-331-7418. You can also message us on Facebook or through our website, which is www.donotthrowiaway.com. donotthrowittaway.com. Very easy to remember. It's the name of the company.
Awesome, great. And just so the listeners know, this broadcast goes to Central Jersey, and your company, Do Not Throw It Away, services all of Central New Jersey, right?
Yes, we service all of Central New Jersey.
Okay, great.
Yes, we do.
So we were talking about, I guess we defined what staging is, all the benefits of staging, and a very important question is, when should the staging process begin? A lot of clients and sellers may have the misperception that first they put the house on the market and then they wait for their realtor professional to advise them. But optimally, it would be beneficial for a lot of people that need staging to do it before the house is on the market.
Yes.
Can you touch?
I think as soon as you think, if you think you're going to retire 2 to 3 years, right? Why don't do it in, leisurely, rather than when I come in and say you got a staging, you got to call Andrew, you have to come tomorrow. So everybody rush. As long as you decided you're thinking about moving, and please just call the professional and help you to get a house ready.
And
right?
the reason is basically you want the house to show the best way possible when it's put on the market. You don't want to put the house on the market with the realtor and then engage the stager, because you're going to lose that opportunity cost, because certain buyers may come in the house and not give the house a second consideration because the house is too messy, too decluttered. So I think the staging, it has that benefit. And then if the sellers, like you touched upon, Holly, if they decide, I'm going to do it myself, I can do it gradually, while the house is on the market for the month, again, you're going to waste time and you're going to delay. You could delay getting a good offer, and that delay of a month or two is going to cost you money. So the price up front of staging is going to far give you much more profit in selling the house.
Especially in today's fast raising interest. We are racing against interest rate rise. Right. So the quicker get a market is beneficial to the seller. But just to the point, Ken, even before you think about selling, maybe 2-3 years you're going to retire, why not just start, call people, come here, either you do yourself or hire a professional to give you a fresh of eyes and get a house prepared. Believe me, once you get the basement, get your stuff organized, you feel better too,
right. That's a big thing, Jane. So something you said during the break is you only have one chance to make a first impression. Right. And that's very true. And also when we talked about the time of money loss, that's true to some degree in people who are selling themselves. It's mostly true in estates. I see that a lot. Like people with estates want to do it themselves because of sentimental value. I know this is not something we touched on, but I want to go, and then I'll go back to what you were saying. Because of sentimental value, they want to touch on it. They want to do it themselves. And they're having an empty house, which is even more than a house you're living in maybe being delayed, because at least you're living in it. They have empty houses that stay. And I tell people, you have to understand where the memories are. And I do this for estates, but I also do this when people are decluttering their houses. I have a thing I like to tell the clients. If I put you on a desert island and you had nothing with you on that desert island but a bottle of water, and I said to you, tell me a story about your mother, or tell me a story about the house you grew up in, or tell me a story about the house you raised your children in, you could tell me all those stories, because those stories are not in the possession, they're in your heart. And that never leaves you. So you have to really have that thought in your mind when you're looking at your possessions. And that's very hard for a lot of people. And that's why people don't want to declutter even while they're living there. And they don't. And people think my house is not cluttered because they look at their own house and it's their things and the things they lived with. So one thing we're very cognizant of is everything has meaning to you or you would not have kept it. But, like Jane said, if you start to clean out your house sooner, you will live in a house that looks nicer. Everybody paints the house to sell it and then says, why didn't I paint it sooner? Why did I live with this gray color that I disliked for 5 years? Why didn't I make it beige? Now I'm doing it for someone else. Well, it's the same thing with decluttering and organizing. It's been proven that a house that's neater is a calmer environment to live in. Yes. So why not do it for yourself? And the other thing by waiting is if you do it for the sale. Let's say you realize that you have to do it before you put it on the market. You're pressured. You're doing it quickly. Yeah. And worse, if you do it, like you said, while it's on the market and the house sells, we've gone in with a last minute. We have to take everything that's left. And the disadvantage of that is you don't have the opportunity to really look through and pick what you want. And you don't have the opportunity to donate and recycle the things the way they should properly be done first of all, for the environment, to keep them out of the landfill. The landfills are getting full. And secondly, to know that things that matter to you have another life. They have another home. They're not ended up thrown in the garbage. Because even if you can't enjoy them and use them anymore, they're your things. And it always makes you feel good to know that someone else can use them and someone else can enjoy them. And that's the advantage of starting sooner. So like Jane said, even if you're not ready to sell, you can declutter your house. You can reorganize your house. It's also cheaper because if you have all that time, I'll come in and I'll work with you and I'll show you what to do, how to do it, and work with you in steps. You don't need us there all day, every day, just physically doing it. You have time, so we can work on a project. I can help you learn how to organize it, how to get rid of it properly, and then come back and do some more. And then if you want a break, you take a break for a month because you have time. Yes. So you don't feel like emotionally overwhelmed by going through everything all at once. It's not only physically tiring, it's emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's also the challenge of letting go. Like a lot of people that have emotional attachments, They say, well, I have no need for this wine set, but this was the wine set that I always had wine with my mother, drank out of this cup. In fact, I'm the furthest thing from a hoarder, but I still kept the original wine glass that my mom used to drink when we had our Sunday dinners. I still have that down in the basement. I'm like, well, it's just it's this non-significant wine glass, but that had her. That was her favorite wine glass. And so there's an emotional attachment. So the sooner you start the process, the easier it is because it's time consuming. It's not the physical packing in, but deciding what you're going to keep. And then you're going to have a consultation with the seller. You're going to help them with whatever they decide they want to keep in the house. You're going to help arrange it, whether it be the china, the silverware, the setting for the dining set, and then the things that they finally agree to let go, you're able to donate them or give them to a
Yes. So we tell people to keep something like that because there are things that have that emotional attachment that trigger those memories. And you do want to keep those things. I have a teddy bear in my closet that belonged to my aunt with a purple outfit because she liked purple teddy bears, purple and teddy bears. And when I look at it, it triggers that memory. Same thing as your wine glass. But also what happens by starting sooner because of the emotional attachment is in the first go round, you might have kept the wine glass and 2 or 3 other things. But then when you start to do it and you go back, maybe you realize I don't need 4 things, I only need 2. So it gives you more time to really slowly, and it's less emotional to get rid of 2 things first and then 2 more and get down to 2 from 6 than it is to start with 6 and go right to 2. So by doing it slowly, you have that opportunity. That also talks to how we price based on what we do. So what we do is we recycle everything, as I said, we can, and we donate what we can. But the donation part takes time and work and effort. Because not everything can be easily donated. Everything has to be sorted. Everything has to be packed. And we have someone who works with us who does that. But that takes time. And if you wait till the last minute, sometimes it just can't be done. There isn't the time to sort it. There isn't the time to find the places to properly donate it. And you don't want your things to end up in the garbage. And then there are things that can be sold. And you want those things to be sold because that also gives them a new home and it reduces the cost to you. Because we price based on what we can do with it. If it has to be recycled, if it has to be thrown away, that would be the most expensive. Mm-hmm. If it can be recycled or donated, it's reflected in the price and it's less costly. And if it can be sold, then the value that it can be sold for is reflected in what we charge you. There have been some instances where we've done work for free or paid people, but that's very rare. And right now, as everybody knows, that's mid-century. Yeah. Mid-century furniture is what's hot, and that's where the money is. Sadly, and this is the other thing that's very difficult and a lot of people don't understand, my generation is all decluttering, retiring, and going to smaller homes. And a lot of the things that we collected, that we liked style-wise, our kids don't want.
Yes.
And so there isn't the market that people think there is for a lot of things that they have. And it's very hard to accept that and to understand that. And it's better if you have time to see that that is true and figure out what to do. I went to someone's house. They had a whole set of stuff on the dining room table, and they said to me, I don't know what to do with all of this. And I said, you have children? And she said, I knew her. She said, you know I have children. I said, didn't you, this is, she's like, this is my mother-in-law's, this is my grandmother's. I said, did you offer it to them? And she said, yes, I offered it to them, and they didn't want any of it. I said, and other people's children don't either. And
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Holly, but that's very interesting because I was about to steal your thunder and say that with furniture, we were looking at dining room sets because we needed a larger table. And there is such a supply chain shortage that it's about a 6-month backlog unless you buy something from the floor. So my comment was going to be that, I'm sure you can find a home for these dining room sets that the sellers that are downsizing don't need. But you explained that a lot of the style of the tables and the furniture doesn't suit the younger generation. So that's a dilemma. And the younger generation wants the things that are whatever they want, but they have to pay for it and they have to wait unless they buy something off the floor. So that was something I was going to say, hey, wait a minute, there should be a demand for that. You can sell it, but it all depends on the style and the needs.
Yeah, they're willing to wait to have what they want. They're willing to wait to have the style they want and the look they want because they feel if they take this, then in 6 months when they get what they want, they have to figure out a way to get rid of what they took. So they're paying for something that they know 6 months down the road they're not going to. So sometimes we'll free cycle things. So that way it has a home, because if you get it for free, you might take something temporarily, knowing, okay, I can use this for 6 months or a year until I have something else. So when it's possible, there are times we do free cycle items.
Yes, fantastic. I mean, a lot of my clients, right, after you guys did the work and we sold the house, they said, oh my God, I don't want to sell, I want to leave. Why didn't I do that 5 years ago?
Yeah, that happened with an estate sale in Edison that we did about last summer where the lady had just moved out and the house never looked, even the daughter said, oh my God, this house hasn't looked this good in 40 years after you rearranged the furniture and the dining set. It looked, remember that one on that one? That sold pretty much, it sold very quickly after that. So staging has a lot of benefits. And once again, Holly, we're out of time. We want to thank you so much for sharing all the insight and value into staging. And if you could just give your contact information to the radio audience in case anyone wants to reach out to your company.
So again, my name is Holly Cerami from Do Not Throw It Away. I gave all of it before, but the best number to reach me is 732-331-7418. And we are on Facebook and on the web. I want to thank you both for having me. It was a pleasure being here today. I hope I've been some help to the listeners with some valuable information.
Absolutely. That's great help, Holly. Thank you.
Thank you again, Holly. And we're out of time. We'll see everyone next week. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.